Hello everybody, my name's Nicola and welcome back to my channel. This is the Frugal Cottage, where we talk all things money to help you on your financial journey. Today's video is all about how to set up that budget, how to start budgeting as a beginner. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's get started. So, budgeting. I talk a lot about budgeting on my channel because I do believe that having a budget gives you the tools to be able to change your money situation, where your money goes, what it does for you, and really help you to achieve those financial goals. I will leave a link below to my July budget with me video where I show you how I set up our budget, and I'll also leave a link below to the zero-based budget method, which is a budget method so that you can watch those if you would like to. The links will be in the description box below. But there are certain steps that you need to do to create that budget for yourself, and it's fairly straightforward. You might need to look through bank statements and like pay slips or whatever, but the general idea behind it is quite simple, and hopefully by the end of this video you will have the tools that you need to create that budget as a first step to your financial journey. So the first thing you need to do when thinking about a budget and setting one up is how much income you bring in, either as a household or as an individual, depending on how you do your finances. And the reason why you need to do that first is because you need to know how much money you bring in, and so that you know where to send it in the end. But for now, we're going to look at income as a starting point. So that is every single bit of income that comes into your household to do with your budget. So that could be your 9-to-5 job. You could have some side hustles. You might have things that you sell on eBay. You might get benefits. You might have dividend income. Anything that counts as money received into your bank account during the month can count as income. Obviously, if you have side hustles, you do remember that you do need to pay tax and national insurance on that, but that's a separate video altogether. But everything that you earn and it comes into your bank account during the month, that can be counted as income. So your first task is, first of all, write down all your different income sources, and it is absolutely fine if you have the one which is your day job. Yes, different income sources make it much more stable, but it's okay if you've got one, that's fine. If you've got 10, amazing. All of those things need to be written down and added up. That is your first step in your budget, so working out what your income total is. The second step is to work out your fixed expenses. So these are things that are generally by direct debit, and the amount that they are every month does not change. It is a set amount, it goes out like clockwork, there's not really much you can do about it. They're the things like a mortgage payment or a rent payment, your council tax, gas and electricity, water rates, the internet, TV, mobile phones, things that are set up by direct debit that need to be paid every month. Some of those are higher priority than others, so the biggest payment for most people is either a mortgage payment or their rent payment. That is the biggest one that will probably go out during the month. Council tax is also another important one. You don't want to get behind on your council tax, but the fixed expenses do not change from one month to the next, so they're easy to work out. So the second thing to do when you're creating your budget is to work out your fixed expenses. Again, write them down, add them up, put a number at the bottom of there. I've got a budget planner that has a sheet for you to do all this on. I'll leave a link below to my Etsy shop. You can have a look at that if you would like. It is the budget planner I use month in, month out. It has a budget page for you to write down all this information if you would like it. The third thing to do in your setting up a budget is to work out your variable expenses. So these will be different for every single household depending on how many people it is, what extra things you do. Do you have children? Do you have pets? Do you have to travel a lot? There are so many different things, variables, hence the variable expenses section. These can be things like your groceries, your travel, petrol, house, miscellaneous, children, pets, holidays. There can be so many different things that you choose to have in this category. And the reason why they're variable is because generally from month to month, the amount that you spend in these categories will go up and down. So one month you might spend loads on food, but the next month you might kind of rein it in, hence the variable part. You need to work out, and this might be where you need to look at bank statements, so go on online banking and look at the list of all the places you might spend money and work out what your variable categories might be. The more you have, in some ways, the more difficult it is to track, but it's up to you for your circumstances. But work out your various expenses. And then, if necessary, if you're new to budgeting and new to tracking your system, you might need to go back and work out just how much you spent on food in the last month, for example, to give you a general figure on what your food budget is for the month. And do that for every category that you find. So if you spend a lot on petrol, for example, go back through your bank statements, go through the previous month, add up how much you spent at that petrol station during the month, and then that will give you a kind of a figure for petrol. And it might need tweaking as you go along and you start to realise that maybe certain aspects of your budget could be reduced, certain ones of them need to be increased. That's the variable part of it. They are the ones that need to be slightly more flexible. They're also the ones that you might go over. But give yourself a rough idea of that. And then in month 2, then try and see if any of those need changing. So I regularly change the numbers in our variable budget just slightly, because there's no point doing a budget that is not realistic to your circumstances. So there's no point saying, oh, we're going to live off £100 a month for food if you're a family of 5, because unless you're a whiz in the kitchen, that's probably an unrealistic amount to aim for. So be realistic. You don't want to fail at the first hurdle by giving yourself a really strict budget that there is no way you can stick to, and then it falling by the wayside because you know it hasn't worked for whatever reason. So try and be realistic with your variable expenses. They're the ones that can change. They're also the ones that, if you are struggling to keep to a budget, will be the ones you can make that change in and make sure that you come in under budget as you go along. The fourth thing you need to do is to budget for your short-term savings goals. So in theory, set them up as if they're an extra bill in your budget for the month. So short-term savings goals. I've got a video that I'll leave a link below to about the 6 sinking funds you need in your budget. That essentially covers the short-term savings goals. But things that you might need within the next 12 months, maybe 2 years, should probably be short-term goals. Divide it by the number of months you want to save it for, and that gives you the amount that you need per month to add into your budget. But definitely have some short-term savings goals in there. Things like, even like car maintenance. So if you've got a car, it has its MOT once a year, you can factor saving it for that, so that when the time comes, you're not scrabbling around for money because you've got it saved in your short-term savings pot, if you like. So work out some short-term goals. Again, the more you have, the maybe more difficult it is to kind of stretch your money in all different directions. But again, it's up to you and your family circumstances. Add up those short-term goals in terms of a monthly amount. Don't add up the total, because that's not realistic at all, but work out what you would need to save per month to get to those, and then leave that as an item in your budget. The fifth and final one in terms of setting your budget is, again, set it up as a bill, but these are long-term saving goals. So maybe you want to save up to redecorate the kitchen. Maybe you want to save up to get a new car. They're probably longer term savings goals than, say, going on holiday. But you also need to think about things like retirement. Do you have a pension? Could you put money away for those longer term, 10, 20 years? And when I say long term in that sense, if you're looking at 10 years plus, probably good to look at starting an investment portfolio for some long-term savings where you can lock your money away and leave it there. I'll leave a link below to the how to start investing video that I've got. Check that out, that will explain that more in detail. But the fifth part of your budget should be long-term savings. And then, although I said finally, if you have debt repayments in your life, then that also needs to be a factor in your budget. In fact, that should probably go between short-term and long-term savings. Prioritising debt repayment is more important in some ways than saving for a kitchen redesign, for example. Again, treat them as a bill. So if you've got a credit card, the minimum payment of that has to be a bill. You need to be making the minimum payments on any debt you have, if nothing else. If you can stretch to more, then great. Remember, you need to ensure that you've got some kind of emergency fund in there, but debt repayment does have to factor in your budget if you have it. And don't ignore it if you have. I'll leave a link below to a blog post I've got about how to pay off debt. It gives lots of practical strategies on how to start that process rolling. but if you've got debt repayments, that definitely needs to be in your budget at some point. And again, like everything else, treat them as bills. Don't think about them as an afterthought. It needs to be there as almost as a priority in your budget after paying for your fixed expenses and your variable ones. Your debt repayment have to be in there. And that's a budget. To summarise, work out your income first of all. Household income, your income, however you want to do your finances. The next thing is to work out your fixed expenses, so things that don't change every month. The third thing is variable expenses. That is anything that can change during the month. Fourth is short-term savings. Fifth is long-term savings. The extra bit is those debt repayments, wherever you want to slot those in terms of your budget. The outcome should be that your income is more than your outgoings added up all together. This is where it might seem a bit scary, and this is where you can make those changes if you need to. If your income is less than your outgoings, you need to change your outgoings if possible, so that they come under your income. And that's where your variable expenses come into play. You can shift those around, you can change those when necessary. Also, short-term and long-term saving aims can be changed, lowered if necessary, whilst you work out a system that works for you and your budget. At the end of the day, you need the income number to be bigger than everything else. Even if it's just by like £10 or £5 or 50p, so long as that income total is more than your expenses total, you're doing okay. Like I said, I'll leave links below to the various different things that might help you on that journey, including the budget planner that I use month in, month out. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you always for watching. Leave any comments and tips you have below. It's great to get the conversation going around budgeting and improving your own financial situation. Let me know if there's anything else you'd add into the budget apart from those 5, maybe 6 things that I've mentioned, and I'll see you again very soon.